Good afternoon, everybody. Move everything a little bit. I wanted to stop in and do a little tutorial, I don't know, demonstration, have you play with me. I had this huge piece of white fabric. I mean, it was huge. This is just a minor portion of what's left. It's polyester, so it won't dye well. And white was not making me happy as far as making journals or doing anything with it. So I decided I wanted it to have some color, and like I said, polyester fabric does not dye well. So I decided that I would paint some. And I'm here to show you what I've been doing and how I've been doing it. This was my test piece, and this piece I actually put some soap on and washed after it got good and dry, and the color came out a little bit, but not a lot. One of the things about painting fabric is that paint is more permanent than something, so it'll stay on something that you might be surprised at. Anyways, this is white fabric. It's polyester. It's a fairly loose weave. I just wanted it to have some colors to it, so I have painted fabric, and I thought I'd show you some of the pieces I'd done. And if you notice, this one's a little stiff. This was one of the first pieces I painted, and it's got a little bit of stiffness to it, but the rest, like this one, is pretty soft. It's all about figuring out what you're doing. So I just thought I'd show you some of the pieces, and I painted lots of different colors and did it in lots of different ways. These pieces are plenty big enough to do a journal or something else. And I'm going to show you, I'm actually going to do a few pieces today. So, the other one, this one is more green than brown. The other one was more brown than green. I thought I got a little too much brown in it. So anyways, we're going to start with just a plain piece of white fabric. And I'm using my good old faithful Reynolds freezer wrap. It's plastic coated on one side, and this way I can pick it up and move it. And that's important to me because it takes a while for this stuff to dry. And especially right now, because we have a lot of humidity here in northern Florida. So I have a piece of freezer wrap with the plastic side up. And frankly, I reuse my freezer wrap. It's got a little bit of color on it, but I'll show you about that in a little bit. We're going to take a little container, and I usually start with the lightest color that I want to use first. And I'm going to put some paint in my container. And then I'm going to put some water. Now this is just basic craft acrylic. Let's see what that one was. That one's Americana Deco Art Standard Cadmium Yellow. I used some house paint, wall paint in a couple of those because I had some samples. Whatever acrylic paint you've got, and I have to understand acrylic paint is technically plastic, so that is why it's adhering to the polyester fabric, and when dye would not. So then once I get this kind of nice and goopy, very thinned out, I just start painting it on. If I spill, I just paint somewhere else. Got to do a little off camera here so that I can, oh, and by the way, it curls up on the edges, just so you know. The freezer paper wants to stay in a roll. That's not a brand new roll of freezer paper. So if I decide it's not quite, oops, spilled some over there. And this is what I did to make all those pieces. I'm just pouring it out, spreading it out. It's very thin and watery. And I kind of spread it around in different places. Now I usually start with the lightest color. I'm very bad about washing out my paintbrush. I don't really do it. You notice it's starting to spread, and that's fine. I don't care. Okay, so that's the first color. And we're going to go with some cobalt blue, and this is apple barrel. And we're going to do exactly the same thing with it. We're going to put a little in our container. And we're going to pour some water into it. Now you do want to think about the colors that you're using, because over the course of the fabric and it getting dry, it will bleed into one another and change their colors. So you need to think about the color wheel and the fact that blue and yellow make green. That's just what's going to happen. And we're just going to start pouring this on. Oops. Little much right there, that's okay. Okay, so this piece is going to have blobbies of blue in the yellow because I poured it a little too much there. So we're going to let it run on purpose. Now if you don't fill the entire piece of fabric with paint, that's okay. However, I'll probably pull a third color in a minute here. Okay, now, all right, I think you have to think about this. The blue and the yellow make green. So what we're going to do is pull some green to finish out. And I usually do 3 colors, or on most of that fabric I've done 3 colors. The biggest thing is you want to really mix your paint up. You want, there's a thread right there. You want to get it nice and watery. Now this is a very bright color, and the yellow has dulled itself way far down because it has spread out. Don't worry about that because this is going to spread as you go. Now if I get it to this stage and I realize, like over in this upper corner that you cannot see, it's way too yellow. I have way too big of a spot of yellow. So I'll just put a little, oh, I got a missed spot. I'll just take the green and put a little into that spot. And if it's not doing what I think I want it to do, I will add some here and there. Okay, so that's a piece that's done. Now, it may be done, but it's not dry. And the biggest thing I can tell you is if you want any separation of colors at all, you have got, uh-oh, spilt it. You've got to let it get dry without disturbing it. That's one of the reasons why I used the the freezer paper. I can move it. If you pick this up now and try to make it dry, it will turn into one color. It will just be one solid color. If you want this little bit of variety in the color, you need to let it dry without picking it up. I'm going to move this piece and show you another one. Okay, I have taken that other piece to my other table, and I'll show you how you can pick it up. Just by, I've got clips on the end of the freezer paper so that that'll hold the rolly parts down, and just pick it up and carry it somewhere else. So now I'm going to show you another sort of technique, and then it's the same basic concept. You mix your paint. Oh, I poured the water in first this time. It doesn't really matter. Water, paint, whichever's. Oh, there was some green in my paintbrush. That's all right. You want watery paint. Otherwise, it makes the fabric very stiff. Okay, for this one, we're just going to make some circles of our paint. And remember that if you want this color to stay there, it's going to bleed, it's going to spread out. So you want to work fast. And you want to think about working all the way across your fabric, because don't forget your edges or the other side. Now, the paint bleeds all the way through the fabric, so you do not have to paint both sides. Okay, let's go back and water down some of these. Alright. Like I said, it's very important that you don't pick this up right now. If you do, it'll all just be one big blob of paint. At the same time, you also don't have to worry about painting the entire piece of fabric. It's going to sort of bleed together, and it does not take a lot of paint. Oh, I'm sorry, I should, I guess, be telling you what colors I'm using. I really never pay attention. I just use the colors that I like, and I do think about the fact that these are all sort of on the green side. They're not, there's not a lot of red in them. So you want to keep colors that complement each other, or ones that when they mix together, they try not to make mud. In other words, no red, blue, yellow, all of them on the spectrum. You'll end up with mud. And as far as those little drips, I don't worry about it. I kind of like them. So, oh dear. For some unknown reason, I mixed too much paint again. So, you can really see right now with this one how it's bleeding out. Notice that. Can you see that on that right here where it's getting lighter? Okay. Let's see here. What can I do with this paint? Put it into something else. There we go. Let's try not to knock that over. Okay. Now we're going to put in one last color, and this is a blue. So the first two were sort of green and this one's sort of blue. And I am just going to put the blue in here, in between everything. And remember, I told you do not pick up your fabric, because then you will end up with one big piece of mud that does not have any color variation. I keep repeating myself on that, but it's the one thing I found that was important. Everything else is just a matter of, okay, put down some colors and have some fun with it. Okay. Now, I think I got not quite enough water or paint or whatever, so we're going to go back over with a little bit of water in these spots. Okay, now you notice how there's a lot of separation in this one. I didn't get all the fabric painted. It's just there, and it's kind of bleeding together. You can really sort of see it right in here, different places. I cheated and I painted another one that's already dry. I wanted you to see what happens, that it doesn't stay like this. So give me just a minute to move this one. Hi. Okay. So I painted this one with exactly the same colors and the same technique as the one you just watched me paint, with the circles of the pale green, the circles of the darker green, and the little bits of blue in between it. And as you can see, it dried without having the big blotchy, the definite lines of a circle or whatever. It is very definitely kind of bled together, very tie-dye, very soft looking. I really like how they come out. Now, if you get paint that is a little bit darker, you've got some spots. Oops, that's plastic. Right there. And, you know, that's part of the charm of it. I like it. It's got a nice feel to it. Remember that it is painted with acrylic paint, so don't lay your iron right against it. Polyester fabric, you don't want to do that with anyways, because it is easily melted. I have a couple more things to show you. I wanted to show you the fact that when you have this, you want to make sure it's dry. Once it's dry and you peel it up, you can see that there's paint still here, and that is why that if you pick it up and put it back down or move it, this paint transfers to other places, and then you end up with just one color. Now what I do, and I am, you know, I guess maybe I'm frugal, maybe I'm just I hate having to go after something, and more freezer paper would not. So I just take a baby wipe and sort of clean this up. that way it doesn't transfer to my next piece. And I imagine you can do three or four pieces of fabric before you go on. I've done 3 or 4 already on most of the pieces I've used. But it also gives you these cool baby wipes that you can use in another project. I'll have to come up with something. But when you clean up your freezer paper, you do get some cool painty baby wipes. I loved how these had this in there. Anyways, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. I really hope you had fun, and I really hope you'll do some painty fabric. I have ideas for these. It's just a matter of having time to get them accomplished. So stop back by, subscribe to my channel, click on the little bell so you know when I've made a new video, and I will try to keep putting out videos. And if you have any suggestions of what you'd like to see, also give me a holler. Thanks. Have a great afternoon.